Hi everyone. Welcome to the 4th week of Music for Mindfulness with Alina Orchestra and Arts for Health, Milton Keynes. My name's Anna and I would like to thank you for taking part in this journey with us. We hope you're enjoying our videos and we've loved hearing your feedback on Facebook and Twitter. Please feel free to leave a comment at any point during the process. Also, we have a Zoom meeting coming up so we can meet some of you and hear from you directly. This will take place on the 13th of June at 3 p.m. If you would like to join us, the link for the meeting will appear in our video in a couple of weeks' time. We really hope to see you then. So, for our mindfulness session today, we're going to return to something we thought about in the very first week, and that is the breath. The most calming, relaxing way to breathe is to draw the breath deeply into the body. It's funny because sometimes when we think about taking a deep breath, we imagine that we need to raise the shoulders and the chest, but actually this can add to the stress in the body. So you may remember in the first week we did an exercise where we took a hand and put it over the tummy to draw the breath more deeply all the way to that hand. We're going to try taking a couple of breaths like that together now. Now, if you don't feel your breath flowing that deeply right away, don't worry, that's completely normal. We're going to try a new exercise to help with that today, and that's focusing on the exhalation. So together, we're going to breathe out. We're going to try and breathe all the breath out of the body. And when you come to the point where you can't breathe out any further, we're going to hold it for just a second or two and then release. And feel that air flowing into the lungs. And who knows, perhaps it will help you to breathe just a little bit more deeply. Here we go. Breathing out. All the way to the end of the breath. When you reach that point, hold and release. Really well done. Now, we're going to keep thinking about our breathing, but have a little bit of fun together using our voices. So I'd like you to take one of these deep breaths, and as you breathe out, hum a little bit with me. You might choose to just hum one note, to hum a little bit of your favorite song or the fragment of a melody that you've heard in one of our videos. Whatever you want is wonderful with me. So let's try together. Let's make a little bit of music together for Music for Mindfulness. Here we go. Really well done. Let's try it one more time. We're just going to try one final time, and I want you to really enjoy hearing and feeling your voice. Well done. Now we have 2 great pieces of music for you today. And as you watch the rest of this video, I'd love you to bring your attention back to the breath just a couple of times to see if you're maintaining that relaxed, deep breath. And hey, why not throw your voice into the mix and do a little bit of humming along with these pieces of music? Music is wonderful to listen to, but it can also be really joyful to participate in. I hope you enjoy it. Now don't forget, if you found anything in our video today particularly useful, or there's a piece of music that you really like, make a note in your Music for Mindfulness journal, and I will look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.
Hello again. This is week 4 of Music for Mindfulness, and I hope you're enjoying it so far. And if it's your first visit, I hope you enjoy it even more, and there are plenty of the others are still available, so you can go backwards, which is an unusual but delightful way of doing music. Today's program is a little different because we're having 2 pieces of music which, though they're not obviously connected, have one very simple point of contact, which is that they are program music. And what program music means, simply that there is something beyond the actual notes which the music is seeking to display to you. And in this case, one of them is a dramatic work, and one is simply a fantasy based on a Greek myth. Now, as you will remember, most of our videos have a combination of a specially recorded solo item played by a member of the Alina Orchestra and a pre-recorded piece for ensemble, which contrasts and develops the things that we've been looking at. So the first piece today is a very unusual piece by the French composer Debussy, in which he gives the solo flute the business of telling the story of Pan and Syrinx. So the piece is called Syrinx, or in French, Syrinx, and it is an extraordinary example of Debussy's skill at telling us a story in a very simple way, and yet somehow making it very complex. Now, this piece has an unusual note pattern, which is not entirely either a minor or a major piece. It has this very odd note progression. Now that's an unusual pattern of notes, and it's quite hard to get one's head round it initially, but actually it's a brilliant way of expressing a kind of supernatural, otherworldly, Greek mythological sound world, which is not the sound world of the life we have now, or indeed the life that Debussy had. He died in 1917, as it happens. So the flute player, and of course the flute's a wonderfully expressive instrument, which can play very beautiful long lines because it requires less pressure than an oboe or a bassoon. The long line comes, and Debussy then gets the picture of what is happening by generating slightly more rhythmic movement, but that tune I've just played you recurs at every key moment in the piece. I don't know if you know the story of Syrinx. She was a nymph. She attracted the attention of the god Pan, who was half goat and half man, not terribly attractive, and she didn't wish for his advances to be successful, and he was very insistent. There's a bit of metaphor there, perhaps, for modern life. And he pursues her, and rather than give way to him, she jumps into the water and disappears, and he grasps what he thinks is her, but it turns out to be a group of reeds. A bit disappointing for him, you might think. And he makes these into what is called a panpipe, which is a succession of notes, little tubes of different sizes, which you can play tunes on, and you can, of course, find panpipes nowadays all over the world, particularly in Latin America, where they make a very haunting sound. So this is a story with some drama, with some mystery, and some supernatural ingredients, for which this scale is very well suited. The music begins and ends in great tranquility, and in the middle there's quite a lot of action and drama and leaping about, which is presumably the chase. And the flute is given the most extraordinary things to do in terms of trills, in terms of wide range from top to bottom, and above all in expressive terms. I think you'll find it very interesting to listen to. It's a single line, so there's nothing but that one line for you to hear, and the soloist carries the whole burden of performance entirely by herself. So we're very lucky indeed to have Ilya Ruhrmann to do it for us. And if you want to hear Ileana play some other time, come and hear the Alina Orchestra play, and you will hear her doing it. I do hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed that rather exotic piece and Ileana's wonderful playing of it. There are very few pieces which give the flute player quite so much scope to do things with the instrument. The second piece is an orchestral piece. This is the very first movement of the Peer Gynt Suite, number 1, by the Norwegian composer Grieg. Grieg is a romantic composer. That is to say that he lived in the late 19th century. The Romantic period is generally described as being sort of 1830-ish to sort of 1910-ish. And like all Romantic composers, he was very interested in the concept of the supernatural. Things like Frankenstein are very much Victorian, 19th century inventions. That period was very interested in the whole concept of the supernatural. And Peer Gynt is a strange, exotic creature who meets all sorts of adventures in the play by Ibsen, which this music is written to decorate. Incidental music is quite hard to write for a play because you're obviously tied to what the play tells you. But in the case of this particular suite, Grieg wrote no less than 90 minutes of music for it, so it's obviously a pretty long evening. And he condensed this into 2 shortish orchestral suites, suite number 1 and suite number 2. Morning is perhaps the most beautiful thing in the entire suite. It's a portrayal of sunrise, and it comes from a very simple scale. Which begins very quietly at the beginning, grows with various different little tunes being interpolated into the middle, and then the sun comes up and the whole orchestra plays that tune as though somehow the curtain has lifted. Maybe indeed in the play the curtain did lift at that point. I'm bound to tell you I don't know that. But the orchestra is used very beautifully, and the most expressive instruments in the Romantic period are generally regarded as being the flute, the horn and the cello. And those 3 instruments are very much to be heard in this particular movement. And the piece has a little gentle lilt. And that comes from being in what is known as compound time. And I don't want to bore you with too much technical detail. But basically, if you have a pulse, you can divide it in 2. Or into 3. And this is with a pulse based in 3s. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And that gives the music slightly more lilt. Quite a lot of dances are written with this compound time because it gives you a sort of swing. And though the music is quite slow, the way that the rhythm is carefully constructed means that it never gets static except at one point where it deliberately comes to a halt. I think you'll find the orchestral colours enjoyable. I think you'll find the sense of pre-dawn, little birds waking up gently, and then suddenly the whole thing coming to this marvellously open moment when the sun rises and then the music then dies away again. An awful lot of the music we play in this series seems to begin quietly and end quietly and have a big noise in the middle. We'll try and find a piece which ends loud before we get to the end of the series. But anyway, Grieg's melodic gift, his gift for great tunes, was one of his famous qualities, and he illustrated the music in this play, which I'm bound to say I think is very seldom done, if at all, nowadays. The music has survived the play, which is a rather nice thought, and this particular movement is perhaps the finest of all the things that Grieg wrote for Peer Gynt. So here it is, the first movement of the first suite, Peer Gynt by Grieg.